Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk here on South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes at your service tonight, at your disposal. Phil Kornblut out of the studio, actually out of the loop tonight as he's making the trek to Glendale, Arizona. He is traveling west. The Tigers will be right behind him. They're leaving tomorrow, and they're wrapping up their final workout in Clemson today. In fact, Dabo Swinney has talked to the media one final time before they hop on the plane tomorrow afternoon, and we'll hear from him later in the program. We've got a great show for you tonight, a lot of news to pass along, some recruiting stuff that we're going to get into, your phone calls, emails, tweets. It's going to be a blast. We're looking forward to spending the next couple of hours with you here on Sports Talk. Professor, I hope you are doing well tonight.
I'm doing fine, much better than last night. I felt like I was in a jungle.
It was a little hot
yesterday
in our Sports Talk studios last night here on Main Street in downtown Columbia. We like to say we're the Main Street of sports. Yes, it was a little toasty in here.
Yeah, we're going to start to do like the Western days, grab a chair and just throw it through a window and get some air in here last night.
I was considering that at one point in time as well, but we made it through, and I think the maintenance people got us straightened out tonight. So cooler in the studio, but it's still going to be hot in terms of our content on the show tonight. If you want to join us, great opportunity for you to reach us here, especially in our first hour. 800-956-7266 is how you reach us. You can hit us up online if you prefer the written word to the spoken word. On Twitter, at Sports Talk SC is where you go. Follow us, interact with us there. You can find us on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Sports Talk Radio Network. And, of course, our website. We had a record month in December on our website, a record year in 2015 on our website. People have discovered that little old sportstalksc.com is a great place to go and get your sports news for absolutely free, whether it's recruiting that you're looking for, whether it's interviews with Dabo Swinney or Will Muschamp or Frank Martin or Brad Brownell or Monty Lee or Chad Holbrook or Ray Tanner or Dan Radakovich. There's so much stuff on our website. There's a little something for everybody, and people are discovering that now, and it's showing. Fortunately, the site hasn't crashed. It's managed to maintain all the traffic. And actually, if you look at it, it got a little spruce up. They did a little polishing on the site. So it's got a new look, but same great content, and it's updated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We can only be on the air 2 hours a day, Pro. I have lobbied to make this a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week program.
You must going to be here.
Well, then they said, okay, you're going to do it the whole. I said, never mind. Right, so we could only be on the air for 2 hours a day, but we are connected with you 24/7 via social media at Sports Talk SC and our website, sportstalksc.com. We're going to run off to break. We're going to set the table for a great show for you on the other side here on Sports Talk on South Carolina Radio Network. If you're on Twitter and you keep up with Will Muschamp on Twitter, the new USC coach is pretty active when he gets a big commitment or makes a coaching hire. He has the Spurs Up hashtag, and that went out today, and it got everybody scrambling. Well, who did they get? And they did get a commitment. It wasn't from a high school player. It wasn't from a junior college player. It was from a current player who wasn't a player anymore. In fact, he wasn't even on the roster anymore. Sky Moore, the Gamecocks' leading tackler in each of the past 3 seasons, has changed his mind and decided not to enter the NFL draft and is going to return for his senior season. He made the announcement on his Instagram account today, and that's a big get for Will Muschamp. That would be the equivalent of getting, I would say, a 5-star linebacker in terms of high school. Now, you only get him for 1 more year instead of 4, but Sky Moore is hands down the best defensive player on South Carolina's roster. He led the team in interceptions. In fact, he's in the top 4 or 5 all-time in career interceptions at South Carolina. He's just been a ball hawk for them and a tackling machine. He had 111 tackles this season, a big year for him. So he'll be back, and Will Muschamp issued a statement saying in part that he's looking forward to coaching Moore next season. And that decision was made by Moore in concert with Muschamp, who gave him information. And one of the interesting things, Pro, in his Instagram, he did reference big safety, and there's been some talk that perhaps Muschamp is going to use him more in a safety role, an additional linebacker role. I could see him kind of in a hybrid spot. I saw one NFL analyst, if you will. I know those guys are kind of a dime a dozen. This particular one said that Moore potentially could have been a 2nd-round pick with a good workout.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, as
potentially could have been a second-day pick too.
As they say, when you come in there, it only takes one GM that likes you that can get you drafted. The key point is, and you heard it here first, people, because I told you that Sky Moore would be a safety in the NFL. I told you that. Now, do I have any kind of insight on anything? No, I can only go by experience. The closest thing that South Carolina has ever had to Sky Moore was a guy who played the hybrid Spurs safety linebacker, that's being Antonio Allen. Antonio Allen was drafted, shifted to safety, and came back on occasion. The Jets used him at corner. Mm-hmm. I mean, and so Sky will have to take off about, I'd say, 5 to 10 pounds.
This particular analyst, again, he still thinks that Moore is going to project as a linebacker in the NFL. He would have to play middle or inside probably at that size. But he's got instincts, and he is a bit of a tweener, but wants to come back and play under Will Muschamp, who's got a reputation. Again, this is where Will Muschamp's reputation as a defensive developer comes into play. And you've seen what his impact has been on the recruiting trail as the Gamecocks have at least are getting in the picture on a lot of guys. I don't know how many of these guys are going to land, and I don't pretend to be a recruiting expert. Kornblut will be back on the show tomorrow night, and he can shed more light on this. I do keep up with recruiting on a rudimentary level. I have enough knowledge to get around. I guess one might say I know enough to be dangerous, but I see South Carolina's name being mentioned now with a lot of guys that their name wasn't even being mentioned with a couple of weeks ago. And they're late on some of these guys. Some guys that weren't looking at South Carolina are saying, okay, when I take a visit, I'll at least come visit South Carolina. And I don't know that how many of those guys are going to get, but that shows you that if they can even get a guy that wasn't considering them to take a visit, eventually you're going to start landing those guys. And when you can work on them from their junior year, sophomore year, you're going to get a chance to land more of those guys. So I think the early returns certainly positive in terms of the product and getting in on guys for Will Muschamp. And back to Sky Moore, that's big to get that experience. This is a guy you know what you're going to get going into next season. He will be the leader of that defense. And everybody knows South Carolina's defense needs a lot of help. That is their biggest problem. If South Carolina's going to win again, they're going to have to get things fixed on that side of the ball.
That's why I was telling Corn, I can't compare defenses with other defenses because I don't know what their defense is asked to do. You know, one of the first things Muschamp said in his press conference, what did he say, K-Mac? I'm not going to ask a guy to do something he can't do. But if he hits and is aggressive, he will be out there. I think if anything, South Carolina, and people say, well, they didn't have the talent, Tom. Yeah, but they weren't aggressive.
No.
They were passive. You know, what do you want to be? You want to be knocked down, or you want to be slow, or you want to slowly bleed to death, and which is what their defense was doing. They were just nickel and diming down the field because the team played soft.
Yeah, they had a lot of issues, well documented now up front, especially on that defensive line, and that's been a point of emphasis watching the recruiting. A lot of defensive ends, a lot of defensive tackles they're trying to get in on and upgrade that defensive line. And it doesn't take a coaching expert to realize that every good defense, it starts up front on that defensive line and really up the middle. You have to have good tackles, good linebackers, good safeties, and then you can kind of build around that. If you're not strong up the middle, then you're probably going to have some holes in your defense, and you're certainly going to be exploited by the upper echelon offensive coordinator. So a big get there, a Spurs up for Will Muschamp with Sky Moore returning. Coming up here on the program tonight, just to let you know what we have for you, previewing in less than a week now, just a few, we're coming down to the final stretch here before we get to the national championship between Alabama and Clemson. We will hear from Tide coach Nick Saban. We didn't get to his comments last night on the show, so some comments from him coming up. We have Dabo Swinney off the practice field. He met with the media at about 5:30 or so. So within the last hour, he has talked to the media. So we are efforting that for you, and we will pass that along as well. Kornblut, as I mentioned, he's traveling to Glendale, but we do have recruiting in his stead. Plenty of recruiting to pass along for you. So we have a jam-packed show in that regard. Also, your phone calls at 800-956-7266. What are your thoughts on this game? Clemson, are they going to be able to get it done? Close game, blowout, fourth quarter game, keys. What's an aspect of this game that maybe is on your mind that we haven't talked about? A key play that you think could turn this game? Is it going to be a special teams play? What do you see shaking out that maybe hasn't been discussed yet? A chance to get on board. You can give us a score. We've been taking score predictions. Speaking of predictions, the website, a couple of polls to pass along to update for you. Our website, sportstalksc.com, with a poll, who's going to win. And boy, it is just all rolling Alabama. 87.7% picking Alabama to win, just 12% picking Clemson to win on the sportstalksc.com poll. Now on Twitter, our 24-hour, very well, both polls are unscientific, but the Twitter poll, we posed a question out there yesterday: how many Gamecock fans in the Palmetto State were going to get all in with Clemson for state pride? Now, what percentage, Pro, do you think said they were going to pull for Clemson?
Well,
I was a little surprised by the number.
Well, I think Corn sneaked up and kind of whispered it to me, so I kind of know.
Yeah, it was about almost 30%. It was in the high 20s at last check, and it's unscientific. You could have this is on our Twitter feed, so a Clemson fan, just like on this sportstalksc.com poll, I have a feeling that a lot of Gamecock fans that visit our site voted for Alabama. But at the same point, on Twitter, though, I have seen people, I've actually talked to Gamecock fans that have said, I don't have any reason to like Alabama. Nick Saban, they win all the time. I would rather South Carolina,
that's
state of South Carolina, get a championship. I just don't know how many Alabama fans were polling for Auburn against Florida State a couple of years ago, saying, we want to keep it here. We want to keep it in Alabama.
But that rivalry is a little bit more of a poison pill than South Carolina and Clemson.
Is it? I mean, those are bigger programs, but living this thing pretty up close and personal.
I thought they were the same until we saw when players start to sue schools and they hire an attorney from the other school to sue this school. Then I thought
that's true.
Yeah,
and what's his name taking out the trees in Toomer's Corner?
Right.
Maybe you're right. I'll concede that point. We've got callers lined up, so we're going to take phone calls in the next segment. It's Sports Talk on South Carolina Radio Network. We'll be right back. Let's jump to your phone calls. We will begin with Jack, who is here in Columbia. Welcome in, Jack.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man.
You know I'm a big Tiger fan, so here's my prediction for Monday night. Clemson wins by 10. And that 80-some% y'all got for Alabama, you know that's a bunch of Carolina fans calling in with that 80-some%.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that's a lot of Garnet and Black in that poll.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm the only Tiger in my family. Everybody in my house Carolina fans, which is fine. I don't hold it against them. Hey, when they don't play Clemson, I pull for them. You know, it's a South Carolina thing for me, but everybody's to their own, you know. But Clemson's going to take that one away, and they're going to surprise people Monday night.
So if South Carolina was playing for a national championship and Clemson had finished 3-9, would you pull for the Gamecocks?
Absolutely. My daughter's a Carolina fan. She went there, and, you know, absolutely, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, I can see if you have
You know,
a daughter
I've been a
that went there.
Tiger fan all my life, you know, and I've just, you know, I remember the 1981 game like it was yesterday. I was 18 years old. But,
So
yeah, I like Carolina, man. I have nothing against it. I like Steve Spurrier.
I will say this, though. Clemson is a great football team. Dabo, stop playing the underdog card. You've been ranked number 1. Nobody in this room believes.
But they're a legitimate underdog against Alabama. They're about a touchdown underdog, and Alabama with all their national championships and Nick Saban. I mean,
that's Vegas.
Yeah, but I think they are a legitimate underdog in this game, and they can play that card.
But we called it though. I said there was no way in the world that Nick Saban would be the underdog. They weren't going to do that. They weren't going to do that.
We've got Larkin Belton behind the glass, by the way. I don't think I've welcomed Larkin. They're doing a great job as always. Larkin, where are we headed next? Down to Myrtle Beach. Jay in Myrtle Beach is up next.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man.
So probably in person, I'd say probably 80 to 90% of the Gamecock fans that I know in person are pulling for Alabama. They live vicariously through them in any way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the message boards on Facebook and all, I would probably say at least 70% of the Gamecock fans, they pull for Oklahoma, and now they're pulling for Alabama.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay whenever we beat the Alabama Gamecocks in the ESPN conference. It'll make it all the more sweet. And to answer your question, no, I'd never pull for them. I didn't even pull for them when they played the Citadel.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I wouldn't think you would have pulled for them when they were winning the College World Series.
No, I mean, I don't blame fans. In fact, I don't. You can pull for whoever you want to pull for.
I don't think they're pulling for Alabama. I think they're just pulling against Clemson.
Pulling against. I think if they were playing TCU, they'd be pulling for TCU.
The Horned Frogs. Sunday they'd be
it wouldn't matter. That old adage, Clemson, they pull for Clemson, and then whoever's playing South Carolina, and vice versa. And that's the way it should be. But there are people, for whatever reason, maybe they can explain it. Well, the last caller, I could get it. Like if you had a son or daughter that attended the other school.
Right.
I have a neighbor who is a huge Gamecock fan. I mean, he won't even touch anything worse. His daughter just got accepted to Clemson. And I said, I'm sure he's really going to enjoy writing that check. But that changes your perspective. Dabo Swinney went to Alabama. He grew up in Alabama. You think he's pulling for the Crimson Tide Monday night?
No.
I mean, things can change with your allegiances in a hurry. Sports Talk on a Thursday night here, South Carolina Radio Network. Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes in studio, behind the glass, Larkin Belton. Kornblut traveling today. It's a travel day for him as he's making his way to Glendale, Arizona, where he will set up shop for tomorrow night. And the show, Sports Talk, will be here and there in Glendale as we get you ready for the national championship. Coming up in our next hour, just to give you a little appointment radio, we've got the M&M boys scheduled. Hope to connect with both of them shortly after 7 o'clock. Corey Miller, Will Merritt. Those two have been mixing it up a lot on Twitter, on the airways. We had them both on last week on different days. We couldn't connect with them both on the same day. But, boy, Corey brought the lumber before the Orange Bowl, and Will Merritt followed up after the Orange Bowl on New Year's Day and dropped some fireworks post-New Year's Eve style. Retaliating. So we hope to get them on together so they can settle it once and for all, one final time here in the 2015-20, now 16 football season. Back to the phones we go. Ronnie is in North Augusta. Happy New Year, Ronnie. I don't think I've talked to you in 2016.
No, Happy New Year to you and Pro K-Mac. I know you'll find this surprising, but put me down on the side that won't be pulling for Clemson.
Yeah, that's a shocker.
I just wanted to make sure I clarify.
Hey, I saw a picture of you, though.
Confusion about it.
I saw a picture of you with an all-in Dabo Swinney personally signed. I mean, I think there might be a little part of you that has some sentimental affection towards the Tigers.
No, there's a little part of me that's so stupid sometimes I forget that every cell phone in America's got a camera.
We've all been there.
Yeah, they got me good. Yeah, why doesn't Phil ever let y'all go anywhere? I swear, Kornblut hogs all the trips, man. Y'all need to straighten
Yeah,
out,
he got to go down to Miami and Glendale.
Went to Miami, now he's headed out
I
to
know.
Arizona, yeah.
Oh, you got to be careful. I mean, out in the desert, too. We're hoping he makes it back. But, yeah, he got the long straw.
Right. I tell you what, I used to work out that area and all some, and if Clemson wins Monday night, that's probably where I'm going to be for a while.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a good night, fellas.
Thank you. Yeah. So Ronnie is not in the category of people that are going to go with Palmetto State pride and pull for Clemson to win over Alabama. Not surprising. He's in the majority there, although there are more people than you think, at least if you follow some of the stuff on social media, that are going to actually pull for the Tigers that aren't Tiger fans. Where are we headed next, Larkin? Oscar is in Augusta. He's up next. Hello, Oscar.
Hello there. You fellas talking about the Carolina Clemson rivalry and talking about Alabama, both Alabama. There's no way that the Clemson Carolina rivalry, and there's no way that any really state.
All right, Oscar, you're breaking up on me just a little bit here. Hopefully, wherever you were when you started talking to us, try to get back to that spot. Or I don't know if you're in a car right now and you're mobile, but you're breaking up a little bit. You still with us? No. All right, Oscar, give us a call back. Your phone was breaking up a little bit there, so you can reach us. Again, that opens up a line. 800-956-7266 is the toll-free number. You can also hit us up via email, talkback@sportstalksc.com, Twitter @sportstalksc, and if you want to find us on Facebook, you can do that. Sports Talk Radio Network, right there. Just search it out in Facebook.
Well, it's interesting. We were looking at those rivalries, but yeah, it gets bitter in Auburn and Alabama, and let's face it, one of the reasons why Auburn's coaching staff is hanging, by a thread is because of what Alabama's doing. Whatever your rival is doing, one of the reasons, Jack Leggett is not at Clemson anymore because his rival won a couple of national championships.
Yeah, it's a what have you done for me lately? And it's also you better beat the guy's favorite team in the cubicle next to me rather consistently because I don't like getting smack talked every day when I go to work. I don't like looking at those flags when I drive home from work. I don't want to see the Gamecock flags flying. I don't want to see the Clemson. That's how it works. That's part of the business. And there was a time this was going into last year's game when South Carolina won 5 in a row, and despite the fact that Dabo Swinney was on his way to a fourth or fifth straight 10-win season, there were people out there saying, if Dabo loses to South Carolina again this year, I mean, he'll probably get fired, don't you think? I mean, you can't lose to South Carolina 6 straight years. But he won about everybody every other game. And when South Carolina was beating Clemson, they were beating most everybody they played. And that's what I used to tell Clemson fans in baseball. That South Carolina team that would beat Clemson and won the College World Series, they had an unprecedented run. They had never had a run like that in school history, in NCAA history. What they win 20-something in a row in postseason? That's unheard of. So it's not like they were losing to bad teams. Another note to pass along, the NCAA did what, in my opinion, was the right thing here. Now, there's been some people that feel otherwise, but the NCAA granted Clemson a waiver for extra practice time today, essentially saying that they could practice and not have to go to class, which started today at Clemson. They didn't have to go to class. They get a little extra practice time. They still have to stay within the 20-hour threshold for the week, but it puts them on par with what Alabama does. Now, people are going, oh, well, this just really shows how much emphasis there are on academics from the NCAA. Now, if you read into the story, it does say they had to have the professor's approval. I would really like to see the professor at Clemson that tells a Clemson football player, no, you better be in class. I don't care. You better be there for the first day of class, which is, as we all know, they just hand you a syllabus and send you on your way. How about that teacher that makes you crack open the book on the first day of class? Oh, boy, that guy. That's not a popular teacher. Yeah. And the one that said the Clemson football team had to go to class that day would also not be very popular. But, I mean, if they really wanted to make academics look important, they could have said, Alabama, even though you're not in school, you are under the same restrictions as Clemson. You cannot practice any more than Clemson. So both of you guys are on the level playing field. They went the other way and just told Clemson you can practice as much as Alabama. I don't think it was a huge advantage for Alabama, although there was one. Nick Saban would have found it and exploited it. He's that way. He's like Bill Belichick. Those guys, they'll find any nook and cranny and try to make it an advantage for them. But at least it kind of takes away the optics of maybe it not being on a level playing field.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this game is that one of the interesting things that Dabo Swinney does is he knows when a game may be in the balance. And I mean, that's early, which is one of the reasons he called the fake punt, because he saw his team was listless. Said, wait a minute. Oh, I don't like the way this.
He called that one now. He didn't call the one in Charlotte.
No, he didn't call that one. But he saw that they were listless and they needed a spark. Mm-hmm. Alabama's the type of team where they've been here, and you look at their coach, Nick Saban, as you said, like Belichick, you don't know when the guys are emotionally off. I mean, this is a snake that has to be beaten for 4 quarters, and they cut his head off to make sure it's dead. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see how Dabo reads the emotional tea leaves of this football game against a team that often does not show any emotion.
Let's go back out to the phones. Oscar's back. Okay, Oscar, hopefully you have a better cell.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's good. Yeah, we can hear you now.
What I was going to say though is Alabama-Auburn is just you got to live in it to know how intense it is. I've got cousins that live out there, and believe me, they've had situations for Thanksgiving and at Christmas and all.
Yeah, people end up in prison.
Yeah, they're at grandmother's. And let me tell you, there was blood on the turkey.
Yeah,
and it wasn't from the turkey itself. Yeah, they've even had the police to come out there and have to break them up and all.
Yeah.
So there's no way to compare. Georgia Tech, Florida State, South Carolina Clemson. There's no way to compare with Alabama Auburn.
Agreed.
Yeah, because as you said, when they poison trees, that's a little bit beyond the pale as far as I'm concerned. Now, Florida State can get a little bit vicious too.
It used to be in Florida State when Miami still mattered. Miami and everybody pretty much. But look, we live, eat, and sleep it every day in this state, and it's not. It doesn't usually involve the penal system with South Carolina and Clemson, but it's a pretty intense rivalry between those two schools. Coming up in recruiting, an update on former USC commitment Kevin Riley Ridley. He was looking strong for USC, backed off from USC. Now it looks like he's ready to sign and enroll. We'll tell you what it's looking like for the Gamecocks, where he could end up. It does not look like he'll be following his brother to Alabama. But first, speaking of Alabama, Nick Saban talking to the media, previewing the upcoming matchup against the Tigers. Here's what he had to say at his press conference.
pleased, especially today, with the way our players approach practice, and we sort of understand it. It's been, a long season. We played a lot of games, and we did all the things to choose to be here. So we did things the right way. So now you got to continue to do them the right way so you can finish the way you'd like. And you really have to decide to prepare and do things in practice so that you create the kind of confidence that you need in the game to be able to play against a team like this. It's a great opportunity for our team to play in the college football national championship game, and attention to detail is really, really important to being able to do that. This is a little bit different circumstance than, the players got to understand it's not a bowl game. I mean, we don't go out there and practice for a week. We're in game week. We've got to get ready to play the game here. We got to travel. We'll get to practice out there once and kind of go from there. But, Clemson has an outstanding team, certainly going to be a tremendous challenge for us. I think their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, is certainly one of the best football players in the country, no doubt, in terms of what his production, performance, leadership has been. I think the balance that they have on offense between run and pass makes it very difficult to defend them, and they have a lot of speed. Make a lot of plays on the perimeter. We're going to have to tackle really well in the game on the perimeter. This is one of the top offensive teams in the country, and I think you would say the same about their defense. And they're good up front. They do a good job of stopping the run. They've got a good secondary, play good pass defense, create a lot of negative plays and sacks because of the kind of people that they have. So Dabo has done an outstanding job there, I think, and the team plays with great competitive character, and certainly going to be a great challenge for our team.
You were speaking of Dabo. You guys have different personalities in the way you go about doing things. What do you think of his personality, the dancing in the locker room kind of stuff?
I like Dabo. He's got a place at Boca Grande where we have a place, and we go for boat rides together and go out and eat. And he's got a great family, and his boys play basketball and all that stuff. So I think everybody's got to be who they are, and I think his relationship that he has with the players is the most important thing, and I think that's always been really, really good. And they certainly, play football in the way that you'd like for them to play if you were any coach or anybody observing the way they play. So obviously their coaches do a great job, and he's the leader of the organization, and I think that's all a reflection of him. I mean, I think the bottom line is they do a great job there, and he does a great job, and they've had tremendous success.
To the left of Matt.
Speaking of dance moves, what kind of feedback did you get on your dance moves from after the game the other night?
I really didn't want to dance. I really do have some moves. I didn't want to let them all out. I really was criticized pretty harshly by Kristen, who has seen me dance before and knows I can do better, and she thought my effort was, not really good.
More importantly, what do you think of their secondary and each of those guys individually, the two corners and the two safeties?
They're really good players. They're good cover people. Both corners have quickness and change of direction and do a really good job. They've got good size safeties, and they come out of the top, and they're very aggressive and good tacklers. And we're going to have to do a great job in execution to be able to make plays in the back end, that's for sure. And they got a good pass rush.
Yeah, I know Deshaun Watson gets a lot of credit, and rightfully so. But what have you seen from their running back, Wayne Gallman, and what does he do to balance their attack?
He's gained over 1,400 yards this year, and I think he's a really good combination runner in terms of he's got some speed to break and bounce out. He can make you miss, and he's got enough size to run with a little bit of power. So, and does a really good job of executing, what they want him to do. And really good players. Had great production all year.
All right, there's Nick Saban at his press conference. Very pleased with the way his team's performing in practice and preparation leading up to the Clemson matchup. I didn't realize that him and Dabo Swinney spend time together in the offseason. I'd love to know what Nick Saban's like away from football, if he just cuts loose. If he just – I see him as a guy that is always one conversation away from getting right back to looking at football information, breaking
even-
down film. But just
even-
people are like, "Where's Nick?" Oh, he's inside breaking
Even
down.
Bill
film for next week.
Belichick is a Bon Jovi groupie, so he's got to have some kind of outlet.
We've got an outlet of recruiting coming up to get your recruiting fix, so stay tuned for that. I often get criticized for not doing recruiting with the same enthusiasm as Kornblut. I promise I do the best that I can here as we begin tonight's recruiting report. I am very excited to deliver tonight's recruiting. Clemson wants to add one more safety to a 2016 class, and one interested prospect is Romeo Finley, 6'1", 190 pounds, out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida. He's been in conversation with Clemson secondary coach Mike Reed and set an official visit with the Tigers for January 23rd and says he can't wait to get up there. He said Clemson are taking 2 safeties, and they have 1 committed, so they're looking for 1 more. The Tigers do have some stiff competition for Finley. He'll visit Georgia Tech January 16th. He currently favors the Yellow Jackets, but he wants to visit Clemson first. He says he really likes the Tigers too. He's also looking at Florida, Miami, and Louisville for potential visits this season. Finley had 60 tackles and 2 interceptions. Wide receiver Kill Pollard out of Moultrie, Georgia, has been committed to Arkansas since September, but he's going to take a close look at USC this month before settling on a final decision. Pollard has been talking to the new Gamecocks receivers coach by Brian McClendon, and he'll take an official visit with the Gamecocks January 15th. He's already taken an official to Arkansas. He's not planning any other visits at this point. There's no timetable for his decision after the USC visit. Pollard was the 6A Offensive Player of the Year in Georgia this past season, grabbing 76 catches for 1,163 yards and 18 touchdowns. South Point defensive back Nick McLeod was offered by UCLA and Maryland today. He's got visits with USC January 15th, Georgia Tech January 22nd. USC has yet to offer. And former USC commitment wide receiver Calvin Riley Ridley out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, is at Georgia today, and there are a lot of reports that he is going to enroll or is in the process of enrolling there. Although I also saw some reports out there that he's just visiting Georgia, and he might take an unofficial to South Carolina at one more time before he decides where he's going to enroll. But all signs seem to be pointing towards him enrolling at Georgia. He committed to USC last week after the Under Armour game, but decommitted just a couple of days later. He's also been considering Alabama, where his brother Calvin is the team's best receiver as a freshman. A baseball note out of Clemson. The Tigers added, well, one guy that is already my new favorite player in college baseball. That would be outfielder first baseman Seth Beer.
Beer.
Beer. He'll have players can't sell jerseys, but there'll be a lot of those jerseys sold. He graduated high school a semester early. He's going to join the team. He's eligible immediately. And sophomore infielder Grayson Bird transferred from Louisiana State after sitting out the 2016 season due to the transfer rule. Beer is rated the number 2 overall player and the number 1 outfielder in the nation among high school players by perfect game. So Monty Lee getting it done. He probably enjoyed a beer after getting beer on campus to celebrate. Monty Lee.
It'd be interesting if he ever – how many endorsements could he get after he retires if he makes it in the majors with that name? Beer.
That's a great name. That's a great I think he might have passed Dwayne Bacon from Florida State as my favorite collegiate athlete name right now. Seth Beer, the new Tiger first baseman outfielder. We'll be back. Top of the hour break.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Hour number 2 of Sports Talk here on South Carolina Radio Network. Wherever you have us dialed in on one of our many great affiliates around the state, we're happy to be with you tonight. Maybe you're listening to us online at sportstalksc.com. However you have us dialed up, we are very happy that you made us a part of your experience, your evening here on a Thursday night. You have K-Mac here. You have the professor, Corn en route to Glendale, Arizona, where he will be set up and ready to give us all sorts of nuggets from the desert, previewing Monday night's national championship game. Still trying to wrap my brain around the fact that we have a team playing for a national championship this year 2 of the college football playoff. Clemson, a chance for college football history to be the first team to go 15-0. So we are getting closer and closer, and we will have great coverage for you here on Sports Talk leading right up to the game and after the game and beyond here as we go forward. Also this weekend coming up, as we get a little closer to the weekend tomorrow, you've got Will Muschamp having a press conference tomorrow morning around 11 o'clock over at Williams-Brice Stadium. He is going to introduce his coaching staff. So whoever his final hire is going to be, I imagine will be in place before tomorrow. There have been a few names popped out there. David Blackwell, former Clemson assistant.
Well, he can't be there.
Why not? Has he been hired somewhere? Did I miss something?
No, because his team is getting ready for their national championship game on Saturday, aren't they? Jacksonville State.
Well, maybe he can name him. That's true. So maybe if they don't, it could be a good sign that it's him, because he has been mentioned and as a name. Travis Williams, the former Spring Valley linebacker and Auburn linebacker, also being linked to Auburn right now. In fact, I read a report on AU Insider that it looks like that's going to happen for him there, working for Kevin Steele. So his name has been mentioned. We'll see what happens in terms of that. But the other guys will be introduced, and I'd imagine Will Muschamp will have a few words. So we will have some Will Muschamp on the show, as well as Corn from Glendale. And then we've got basketball this weekend. South Carolina on Saturday will put its undefeated record on the line at home against Vanderbilt, and that's going to be a tough game. Vandy is always a tough out. Always a tough out.
I'm going to venture to think right now that, and I know it's too early, K-Mac, but Kevin Stallings is going to act like this is Vanderbilt's season. They are desperate. They had control of that game at Arkansas and blew it. And this is a team that I still said at the beginning of the season, to me, was the second best team in the SEC behind Kentucky. And I still think that if you look at their roster and the talent they have, but for whatever reason, they have stumbled out of the gate late and in the non-conference, and here what are they, 0-3?
They're at least, well, they lost to Arkansas.
They're 0-2,
so
I think.
They're
They're 0-2, and they do not want to go 0-3.
And the Gamecocks had a huge lead on them in Nashville last year, if you remember,
Right.
close to 20 points, and that got away from them. They ended up losing. Clemson plays Sunday at home against Louisville Tigers, 2-1 in ACC play. So we'll be at both of those games this weekend as well. We're going to hit a break. The M&M boys, we hope to connect with them coming up on the other side. That's a don't miss segment. Sports Talk on a Thursday night. Kevin McCrary, the Professor Tom Hayes in our Columbia studios. Larkin Belton behind the glass. Phil Kornblut making his way to Glendale, Arizona. He'll be with us tomorrow night as we begin our coverage location for the national championship. We are going to get our M&M boys on the line here. I think we have one of the two right now. We have Corey Miller. Okay, you're working on Will Merritt. We're efforting Will Merritt. Now let's go ahead and bring up the Pastor of Pain, though. Corey, hope you're doing well, man.
Doing good, man. Just sitting here taping some shows, a little high school basketball with the captain and Lou Bay Jackson. We just finished up. So, before I head out to Arizona on tomorrow morning.
Yeah, love talking hoops with the captain. I know you've got to be geeked up and excited. You've got a definite interest in this game with your son, Christian, a player for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they're playing against the Clemson Tigers. And I know that you didn't think Clemson was going to beat Oklahoma, Corey. You were very outspoken. Outspoken, shocking. Corey Miller, outspoken. I've never heard something. But the Tigers, not only did they win, they dominated.
Yeah, dominated the second half for sure. 17-16 at the half, and kudos to Brent Venables and what he has done defensively. I know we talk a lot about Deshaun Watson. We talk about the backs and the receivers and all the skill players, but defensively, that team has done a great job. And the fact that Shaq Lawson went out second, third play of the game, and the young guys came in and stepped up and played well. I was really impressed. That impressed me more than anything. I know Deshaun didn't have a big day throwing the football, but defensively, I think what Brent Venables has done and the development of those young football players, he needs a lot more credit than I think a lot of folks are giving him.
All right, we do have Will Merritt on the line now, and we had both of you guys on last week. We weren't able to, with the New Year's holiday and everything, we weren't able to get you on the same day and connect with you. Corey, we had you on early in the week before the game, and you predicted pain for the Tigers. Now, we had Will on after the Tigers won, and Will, you were bringing the heat as well after the game, after the Tigers won.
Well, I'm just glad to be, in the same presence as Corey Miller.
Amen, brother.
This is uncharted waters for us. Everybody's excited. This is fun. This is fun because, and it's not just fun for Clemson Nation, but it's fun for the state of South Carolina to know that, hey, we can go toe to toe with anybody in the country.
Well, I think probably if I had my druthers, I would prefer that if two teams come from the same region, that's where you play the game. I'd love to see this game at the Georgia Dome, but it's a shame you have to go all the way out to the desert of Arizona for Clemson and Alabama to play.
Well, no, if you had your druthers, it'd be the Gamecocks playing Alabama, not Clemson. But, I think the one thing that's fun is the fact that, we're going to go out there and we're going to represent well, and hopefully we win the ball game. I will tell you this, we better play our best football of the year if we're going to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing about it is Clemson, they are the number one seed, but they've been an underdog in both games here in this college football playoff. They're a 7-point underdog last I checked against Alabama. There's not many people out there that think Clemson's going to win. I know Alabama, I just read a story in a newspaper where a retailer in Alabama ordered 3,000 national championship shirts to sell on Tuesday morning. So they're still not getting any kind of respect, Will.
Yeah, well, how'd that work out for Oklahoma?
That's not very well. They're going to be watching.
Right. Well, it's the same story all over again. It's just like that, the fact that nobody wants to win. I literally sat down with Streeter and we talked about it, and he said, I don't see how they can match up with our speed. And he goes, I think that we're going to be able to win the ball game and by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Well, they ended up winning by 3 touchdowns. I think the same thing holds true for the national championship game. There is no doubt in my mind that Alabama has superior talent in certain areas, but that doesn't matter. None of that matters. You go play the ball game, and somebody's going to turn the ball over, and somebody's going to fumble the ball, and somebody's going to make an interception. I mean, that's what, you know, championship seasons look like. That's why Clemson fans are flooding to Phoenix, Arizona, to Glendale, in order to be able to watch if that 40 years ago can repeat itself and they can go win this ball game.
Will, I had to ask you about Dabo's ability to punch an emotional button. I think we could all, even if we watched on TV, it looked like Clemson got a little bit sluggish right there toward the end of the first quarter, I think the beginning of second quarter. And Dabo just sensed something. He said, look, you know, fake punt. I want to see the fake punt because these guys just need a jolt of let's have some fun, let's play loose. And that seemed to just spark them right there.
Now, I agree with that. I mean, I think that's a great comment because at the end of the day, every head coach has to do something. First of all, let me just say something. 14-0 speaks for itself. I mean, when you play that many ball games, you have to find a way to inspire your guys in some capacity, in some way. And that's what they've done. I'm not going to say that Dabo's the greatest X and O guy in the world, but you have to inspire your guys. At some point in time, you have to inspire them. And so whether it's at halftime, whether it's at the end of the first quarter, whether it's the end of the third quarter, inspire them. Make them believe that they can win any ball game that they're in. And I feel like that's what Dabo's done a great job of.
Corey, are you inspired?
I'm definitely inspired. I like this matchup. I think Alabama is the most complete football team in the country. I think that they have learned after that Ole Miss game. Of course, in the 5 turnover game, was the worst game I've seen them play in a few years. I know I've been watching this football team, but even then, I came away from that ball game, and I said to folks a long time ago when that happened, I didn't think they would lose another football game. Well, they haven't because of the level of talent. I mean, defense wins championships. We know that's cliche. We always say it, but it's true. And defense with people in the trenches that's 11 deep that can play football wins championship. That's why I'm pretty good about my feeling on this football game. I think the defensive line, the front 7, the front 11, or 12, however you want to count, that is so good that plays on the other side of the football. You can't run on this football team. I know everybody goes out and say, oh, they're going to get him in space and try to go back to Johnny Manziel. Well, they've made changes to that. If you go back and watch the dual threat games, Josh Dobbs, Mississippi State, they played dual threat guys. And Deshaun Watson is a great football player, but this defense is absolutely great. Maybe one of the best Nick Saban has ever had. And then you throw the top of it, their offense. And they're not flashy offense, but they can play flashy. And so they play power football with Derrick Henry, but if you make them throw, as Jake Coker showed, if you want to make them throw the football, he just goes 25 or 30. And when you're talking about speed, well, they have that too on the outside. They have it with Drake as a switch-up running back. They have a tight end, O.J. Howard, who can get down to the seam and make catches. They have players everywhere, and they're great on special teams, which is another reason I like Alabama. When you look at Clemson special teams play and what they've done all year, they haven't been really good. And then number 2, the turnovers. Clemson is one of the worst teams in the country in turnover margin, and Alabama's one of the best at protecting the football. So when I look at this matchup, I look at that. But it's a one game, one scenario, who plays the best on that particular day. As Will said, who protects the ball, who don't make the silly mistakes. Normally win these types of football games. But when I look at this team, and then, of course, my X factor is that man on the sideline that has won 4 national championships, is Nick Saban. And I love and I can appreciate what Dabo Swinney has done this season. But I'm going to put my money, I'm going to put my hat on Nick Saban in this type of one game, one shot atmosphere. I'm going to take Alabama all day long.
All day long. And go ahead, Will.
Nothing makes me happier than to hear Corey Miller pick Alabama. that actually.
You're not going to be happy. You're going to be sad, brother, because you look at your best wins: Notre Dame, North Carolina, all these teams that y'all beat. Florida State got embarrassed in bowl games. So we'll see what Clemson can do against a real football team coming.
Great stuff from both. They could just keep going. We'll get both of you guys on after the game. One of you will be happy. One of you will be sad. Thanks. Now, there's some segments when you wish they could just go on forever, and it was just getting good between Corey Miller and Will Merritt. You can just really feel the passion. Oh, and Pro, you were off New Year's Day, but when we had the show on New Year's when Will was on, I mean, he's ready to go. He's fired up. He's ready to go, and he wants people. And I've noticed this with a lot of Clemson fans. They want people to keep picking against them. They want people not to believe in them. And they really have kind of dealt with this all season. I mean, I was at Louisville on a Thursday night, and we were all going, hey, this is a dangerous game. This is a trap game for Clemson. And then when they beat Notre Dame, they had to play Georgia Tech, I think, the next week. This is a trap game. Oh, Florida State's going to get them. They haven't faced anybody like Dalvin Cook. Oh, North Carolina, they've got an offense that's really going to push them. I mean, Clemson has passed every test to this point, and Oklahoma also in that category. This will be the biggest one yet, and I think it's the biggest one for Alabama. There's no question, and I saw a national writer say that there's no question that this will be the most challenging championship game that Nick Saban has had since he's been at Alabama. Now, that is certainly up for debate. That's a very subjective statement, but these two teams, you're talking about 1 versus 2. Clemson does have a great offense. They have a dynamic quarterback that is an X factor, that you can do everything right on defense, and Deshaun Watson can still beat you. He can still make a big play, and that's what having a guy like that does. You can have the perfect play call. You have everybody covered, and a guy just can't quite get him down to the ground, and he scrambles forward for 4 or 5 yards. And it doesn't look like much, but that is just a demoralizing thing for your defense. And he had a play like that against Oklahoma when they were backed up against the goal line. It was a 3rd down play, and he just calmly ran out of his own end zone, essentially, and went for about 8 or 9 yards, knew right where the first down was, and off they went. They end up scoring a touchdown. Those are the kind of plays that Deshaun Watson makes consistently that helps Clemson win games.
And, of course, this will be interesting to see how they play this football game, because Alabama's front 7, plays for keeps. And Deshaun Watson, you need him as a passer in this football game. And I know that part of their system is for him to run the football, but I think hey, you give it to your playmakers in this game, because you're going to need a big play late in this football game if you're Clemson. And you got to have him as a passer, and you can't have him getting banged up no matter how many yards he's getting. I think against a team like Alabama, you want to make him the facilitator in this football game and let those other guys do the grunt work.
Mm-hmm. But he is, and Corey said they've made adjustments since the Johnny Manziel. And remember, he chewed him up, and he mentioned Josh Dobbs, and he mentioned Zach Prescott. And I've seen both of those guys play in person. They're both very good quarterbacks, top-notch quarterbacks. They are not in the same stratosphere as Deshaun Watson. No. They're not. It's not even close. And that's not a knock on those other two. It's a compliment to Deshaun Watson, because I like Zach Prescott's game a lot. I like Josh Dobbs' game quite a bit too. But they're not where Deshaun Watson is. All right, we have time to get back to phone calls. If you want to dial up the number, 800-956-7266. Some open lines for you now as we move through the show. We were hoping to get some Dabo Swinney. I have not completely given up, but it has not made its way to us just yet. Kind of in between in terms of our stringers up at Clemson, because this is a travel day for a lot of the media. The team's traveling tomorrow, but the media types have to leave a little bit earlier when they're taking commercial flights and have to transfer around. And as you can imagine, Phoenix is a pretty busy hub. Sky Harbor Airport, by the way, Sky Harbor, to me, the best airport name in the country, Sky Harbor. It's going to be a pretty popular spot. I think Korn was actually going through Vegas. He had all sorts of stops. I don't know what ticket he booked. It was like going through Chicago and who knows. But he was in Chicago last I talked to him. He's making his way to Glendale, where he will be set up for the national championship tomorrow night for the show, and we'll be there through the weekend, through Monday night, and then the next week. We are watching on our monitors here in our Sports Talk studios on Main Street in downtown Columbia. A couple of basketball games, Louisville and NC State. The Cardinals will be in Greenville on Sunday to face Clemson, 16th ranked Louisville Cardinals, and Rick Pitino, their lead NC State 27-16. And on our other monitor, we have Cincinnati and SMU of note, because SMU is one of two unbeaten teams left in men's college basketball. South Carolina, the other, and SMU trails Cincinnati 23-21. How bizarre would it be if South Carolina was the last remaining unbeaten team in college basketball?
It'd be interesting. You know, it's interesting when people talk about their schedule. And of course, no ranked teams like they had last year that they knocked off, but they didn't finish the season too well after beating the likes of Iowa State and Oklahoma State. But, you know, Tulsa is a good basketball team. Hofstra normally is in the NCAA tournament every other year. And it's interesting we mentioned Hofstra being a good team because the College of Charleston has come out of the gate in the Colonial pretty good tonight, and they got a big one in Charleston because this Hofstra is in town.
Yeah.
And
that's a 10-win Hofstra team facing a 9-win Cougars team.
Exactly. And early on, it's about 8 minutes to go in the half, and it's Hofstra with a 1-point lead, so 22-21. So they got a good one going down in Charleston tonight.
Yeah, and Earl Grant, give him a ton of credit. They beat LSU, who just beat Kentucky, and playing very well down there in Charleston, getting a little excitement. The roar coming back from that Cougar program, to me, a sleeping giant in college basketball. They used to be one of the best mid-major, quote-unquote, mid-major programs. I know they don't like that term. People don't like that term, but they were kind of the Gonzaga of the East Coast for a while, but they are trying to get back to that level. 800-956-7266. Speaking of Charleston, we're heading down that way for our next call. Billy's on the line. Welcome in.
Yeah, I was listening to the Pastor Payne calling in, and he has this picked Clemson against, the whole year. And I just wanted to call and say, when we play Monday night, it's going to be a good game because Alabama is a good team. I've been a Clemson fan for 40 years. I've watched them go through the good times and the bad times. And I promise you, when they come out Monday night, Dabo's going to have them ready. And I promise you, it will be a good game. I am tired of everybody saying, "What have you done for me lately?" I've heard that for Carolina fans over the 5 years. Well, what about the last 2 years? What have you done for me lately? And I just want to say it's going to be an awesome game. And whether we win or lose or whatever, Dabo has our team going in the right direction. And I think we will have the next 5, 10, whatever years, we will be fine.
Yeah, but I agree that they have a program. This is a program of staying power. That this isn't a one-trick wonder. Now, having this kind of run, you have to enjoy it because sometimes your best teams don't end up having the best seasons. And people, I've been hearing this for about 3 years. When Deshaun Watson was a senior in high school, talking to people going, Clemson in the next 3 or 4 years, they're going to play for a national championship. People, you hear that from coaches, and this was from a former Clemson coach, and going, and he said Deshaun Watson's better than Taj Boyd. And at that time, Taj Boyd was one of the better quarterbacks, certainly in the ACC, if not the country. And it's all kind of happening and really ahead of schedule. This team next year, some people think has a chance to be better than this year, but that doesn't mean they're going to run the table. Alabama, the year after they won the national championship, I thought they had a better team the next year. They came into Columbia with the #1 ranked team, and they got smoked by South Carolina. But that team, you look at all the talent that was on that team with Julio Jones and Mount Cody,
Barron.
Ingram.
The key point is that Clemson fans, I want to let you know that you're on a good run, and that run of sustainability has to be there, K-Mac, because I keep telling people every year, we've seen it out of North Carolina, the ACC as a conference is getting better. I can see Pittsburgh getting better. They lost Carter this year, and they came up with another running back who almost led the ACC in rushing. I mean, Pittsburgh is a dangerous team. Florida State is going to be there. I think North Carolina, depending on their recruiting in state, it has staying power. Georgia Tech, you never know which Georgia Tech you're going to get year in and year out. Normally, next year will be their click year. Normally they're good every other year. But Clemson on this run has to remember they're also playing in a very much an improving conference as they try to stay the kingpin in the ACC along with Florida State.
Got anything else for us?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, and the thing about it is, my daughter was a Carolina fan, the biggest Carolina fan that ever lived. But guess what? I had to listen to 5 years of, getting beat up. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, y'all won 10 games, but y'all didn't beat us. And it was hard. It was tough. But guess what? Look where we at now, and look where you at now.
It doesn't take long for things to turn. No. It doesn't. And that's what I tell Gamecock fans, enjoy it, because I think there were some Gamecock fans, this is the new normal. Where it's like we're in Clemson's head. Well, eventually the team with the better – when South Carolina was winning those games, they had better players. They were the better team. That's the way it works.
I would agree with you, but I thought something was in Clemson's head, because don't you agree those 5 years Clemson would make
Jadeveon Clowney
mistakes
DJ
that you wouldn't see them make it in the other game.
Those guys have a way to get in people's head.
Yeah.
But then again, Carolina fans will tell you that they suffered as Tommy Bowden had Lou Holtz's number during his time at Clemson.
Yep. Yeah, he did, and Tommy Bowden, he owned them, and then all of a sudden Dabo came in, he beat him, the interim year, and then we lost 5 straight. So but I'm just gonna say I'm proud of my Clemson Tigers, and they're awesome, and you know what? Whether we win or not, we're in the championship game.
Yeah. Win or lose, this has been a great season for Clemson. There can only be one national champion, but there is no way if Clemson gets beat 50-0 Monday night, which I don't think will happen. It has been a great season for the Tigers, one for the books, and I hopefully that's one thing I give Dabo Swinney a lot of credit. He has really made sure to enjoy the ride. The pizza party was a little hokey, but they have made sure to enjoy the ride and kind of the experience. And you don't know when or if this is ever going to happen again. We have Dabo Swinney coming up next. We do have some comments from him post-practice. That's coming up for you. All right, we have some comments from Tigers coach Dabo Swinney. His final comments before the Tigers jump on an airplane tomorrow. They're not going to talk to the media before they leave, but if you are around the upstate area and you are a Tiger fan, they are encouraging people that want to do so to head on out to the stadium and wish them well as they get on the buses. They had a big crowd. I don't know. I never saw an estimate on the number, but there were a lot of people that welcomed the Tigers back on New Year's Day after their big win over Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. I would imagine they'll have a big crowd to wish them well as they head to Glendale. And I would imagine they'll have a lot of orange in the desert against Alabama. That should be an interesting, I don't know how the dynamic's going to break down. Will there be more Alabama fans than Clemson fans in the stands? They both travel pretty well.
The only reason I would say it might be more Alabama fans is because they probably have more experience in finagling tickets than Clemson has. And let's face it,
Clemson had a head start, though.
They showed the plan anyway when Alabama does not have school this week while Clemson had it. So they had it planned already.
At least the Tigers, they got the waiver. Let's listen in on a few comments from Dabo from earlier this evening after the Tigers practice.
Hard part's over. Today was our last day in pads. Tomorrow we'll have a light workout in the morning and then, long trip out to Arizona, but still a really important day. We've gone pretty hard 4 days in a row, so tomorrow will be a day we'll actually practice in the stadium and just kind of have a little more of a teach tempo, take a little bit off their legs for the day, and then travel out there and then have a really fast practice, Thursday type practice in Arizona. So excited about it, ready to get on the plane and head that way.
Coach, how's Shaq moving around?
It's getting better. Again, it's still today would be like a Tuesday in a normal week preparation. Monday and Saturday, today would be like a Tuesday. So he's shown good improvement each and every day. So we still got 7 more days. So hopefully he'll just keep getting better. Again, I'm still optimistic that he'll have a chance to play.
You talked about having a preparation, trying to treat it that way. With the 20-hour rule being waived, do you change that philosophy at all?
It hadn't affected us really. I mean, that's maybe it would affect other people a little bit more, but appreciate it. I think that's probably a smart thing for future games and stuff, but really not that big a deal for us. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we didn't have any restrictions yesterday, but we might have had maybe one more meeting, but I wouldn't have really changed our practice schedule what we did yesterday, and today didn't change for us at all. So we just continue on with the plan that we had.
Are you a fan of these long distance cross country trips?
Man, you'd think we could just met in Atlanta and settle this thing. Probably been a lot easier for a lot of people, but you know what? That's part of college football, though, and I'm excited for our guys to see a different part of the country. I've only been out there once, maybe touchdown out there twice, but so I think it's great for our guys to get a chance to experience that. So that's the neat thing about college, is seeing these guys kind of get those experiences.
Have you asked any of the Clemson Cardinals about places to eat or anything like that?
No, we're eating at the hotel. No, this isn't like a bowl trip. They had the bowl experience in Miami. This is a championship experience. This is truly a business trip. Very, very tight itinerary as far as what we'll do. They'll have a function for us tomorrow night at the hotel, and then Saturday we've got a media event, and then we're going to go to the stadium and just kind of let them kind of get a good vision of where they're going to be playing, and probably take a nice team picture out there, and then we'll come back and have practice Saturday afternoon at our practice site, which is I think about 15 minutes away from our hotel.
All right, there's some Dabo Swinney. If you want more, you can go to our website, sportstalksc.com, where he is posted in his entirety about 10 minutes of Dabo. I misspoke, they will work out again, a light workout before they hop on the plane for Phoenix and Glendale to continue their preparations. But as he said, this doesn't have the pomp and circumstance in terms of excursions for the players and sightseeing. This is a business trip, a lot like a regular season game, and the fact where they're going to get there a little earlier than they would for a regular season road game because they have some media obligations, but they won't be hitting Camelback and checking out the Arizona Diamondbacks facility and going to check out the Grand Canyon. That's not going to be happening on this trip.
I wanted to give them some time, win or lose either team, give some time to just check out Phoenix anyway after the game.
Maybe they turn them loose. I know they have a press conference for the winning coach on Tuesday after the game. So we'll see how it all shakes out. We're going to wrap things up on the other side. We mentioned earlier in our recruiting report that wide receiver Kevin Ridley out of Deerfield Beach looks like he's going to end up at Georgia. There's been some reports that he's already enrolled and is good to go there. There was some things circulating around that maybe he was going to take another visit to South Carolina where he had been committed, but then decommitted. Yeah, J.C. Sherbert of the Big Spur 24/7 Sports reporting that is not, according to his sources, going to happen.
If you're crazy, if you allow him or even
suggest
go visit Columbia one more time because he'll sign, it brings me back to the story of Jim Kelly. When the Buffalo Bills were trying to get him to sign, he didn't want to play in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you had the USFL, and somebody said, don't let him leave the building. If he leaves the building, we've lost him. And they let Jim Kelly leave the building, and he signed with the Houston Gamblers. As it turned out, the USFL folded it.
And he came back, and now
Buffalo.
He still lives there. He hasn't left. Great 30 for 30 that I watched with the Four Falls. Very good on the 4 Super Bowl losses by the Buffalo Bills. It was a really all those. We give ESPN a lot of grief, but those 30 for 30 pieces are very good.
Excellent.
Yeah,
They're
and
excellent.
that was one. It was interesting watching the contrast of how the Bills fans treated that team, and especially Norwood when he missed that kick, compared to watching the 30 for 30 on the Cubs and Steve Bartman and how he was treated.
Yeah.
And it makes you, I actually, at the end of that, I was like, you know what? I kind of feel for these Bills fans. I hope they have some success, but they have Rex Ryan. So then you're going, okay, never mind.
Well, you know,
maybe not.
The key thing about the Bills, that's Buffalo's team. I can remember the old AFL days when they were the toast of the town. when the late Jack Kemp, who turned out to be a senator from New York, played quarterback on that team. They had another quarterback on that team that couldn't get off the bench, K-Mac, for Jack Kemp. That guy was Darryl LaMonica, who ended up in Oakland as the Mad Bomber and won a couple of Super Bowls with Oakland.
All right, we're going to sign off here momentarily. Before we do, it's at the half of that Hofstra-Charleston game. And I think
great game
Pride have a lead.
In the Colonial. It's Hofstra leading at the half, 37-35. This is one of those benchmark games in the Colonial, which College Charleston is growing into, going up and down the East Coast all the way to Boston, I think, that conference stretches. And I think that team had to get used to the travel. But this is a bell cow game for Charleston. They pull off a win against a kingpin in the conference like Hofstra. They're ready to do some damage.
And they are playing that one in Charleston,
Yes.
and the Cougs already have wins over JMU and Bill and Mary. So that would be a huge feather in their cap. Tomorrow, we will have coverage from here in Columbia. Will Muschamp having a press conference tomorrow. We'll be there. Phil Kornblut will be in Glendale. We're going to have a great show for you. We appreciate Larkin Belton behind the glass. I think he's off tomorrow. He's already got a day off. Just got here. Got a day off tomorrow. Pro, we appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow night. Hope you have a great night, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, here on Sports Talk.